So from this assignment, do you have any questions from 1 through 6?
Could you just go through one?
Okay, let's do one with the focus and the vertex, and then we'll do one with the focus and the directrix.
Number 6.
All right, so let's try number 6. Okay, so number 6, we have a focus at 4, -2. And a vertex of 6, -2. And we are asked to find the equation of the parabola. So with this, the first thing that I notice when I look at this is which variable is changing. So which variable is changing, the x-coordinate or the y-coordinate? The x-coordinate is changing. So which variable is going to be dominant here? So that means I have a y-dominant parabola. So what's the standard form for a y-dominant parabola? Y minus 4p x minus h. Okay, so we're trying to create this equation from this information. Okay, so from the information that's given, what do we currently know that we could fill in over here?
H and K.
Yeah, we know H and K. That comes from the vertex. So we have to be really careful with this because H is going with the x-coordinate and K goes with the y-coordinate. So when I plug this in, I'm actually going to do y minus what? -2, which will become a +2. Squared equals 4. I don't know what p is. I need to figure that out. And I have x minus h, which is 6. So to finish this equation, we need to figure out p. So to find p, we need to remember that p represents what? It's the length from where to where? The length from the focus to the vertex. It's also the same length from the vertex to the directrix, right? So that length P is what we need to find. And so I have my point, my vertex to my focus. Now with this, it's the y's. The y's are staying the same and the x's are what's changing. So we can either plot this out and kind of think it through, or we can say, well, when I go from the vertex to the focus, I'm doing H plus P to go from vertex to the focus. That's going to equal 4. And when I'm doing directrix, it's H minus P, right? So do I know what H is? H is 6. So 6 plus P equals 4. Subtract 6. So we find P is what? -2. And if I'm referring to that as a length, remember the length has to be positive, so it's like absolute value of that would tell me from the vertex to the focus, it's a distance of 2 away. And from the vertex to the directrix, it's a length of 2 away. So this negative tells me which direction the parabola is going to open, right? So since this is going to be a y dominant, it's going to either open to the left or to the right. And since P is negative, which way will it open? To the left. So if I plug this in, I get y plus 2 squared equals 4 times -2, which is -8 times x minus 6. So we've created the equation of the parabola that has a focus of 4, -2 and a vertex of 6, -2. Okay, so let's do another one. That was with the focus and the vertex. So let's do one with the focus and the directrix. So let's do number 4. Okay, number 4. We have a focus Oh, that one's going to be like the next stuff that we're doing. So I want to do one with a directrix and a focus. Sorry, no, directrix and a, oh, we don't have one of those. Okay, let's do 4. It's fine. So the focus is -3, 4. And the directrix is y equals 2. So this time I have my focus and I have the directrix. Okay, so we have to decide, since we're creating the equation of the parabola, is this going to be an x dominant or is this going to be a y dominant? How do you know that this is x dominant? Because like up here we could see that the x's were changing, right? So we said, oh, it's y dominant, they're making the x's do the work. Here I can't really see what's changing, but I know that this is a y equals, so the x is making the y do all the work, right? So this one's going to be x dominant. And then what's the standard form for an x dominant parabola? All right. So do I know what h and k are in this problem? We don't know what h and k are going to be equal to. All we know, and this is where you can work with the little equations, or you can look at this and say, okay, if I were to draw this out, okay, my focus is at -3, 4. So this is my focus. My directrix is at y equals 2. So here's y equals 2. The focus has to be where in relationship to with the parabola? Inside the bowl or outside?
Inside.
It's inside the bowl. And since this is x dominant, is it going to go up and down or left and right? Has to go up or down, right? So in order to draw this so that the focus is inside the parabola, is this going to face upward, be concave up or concave down? Concave up. Now, if the distance from, like if you were to look at this, here's my focus, here's my vertex, and here's my directrix. We're saying that the distance from focus to vertex is a length of what? Just p. And this from vertex to directrix is a length of p. So the total length between here and here is what? 2p. So how far apart is the directrix from the focus? How many spaces? 1, 2 spaces. So we would say 2p is equal to 2. See how that's that length between them? So we would say p is equal to what? 1. So I know I have a length of p is 1, so I could plug that in. What's left for me to figure out? H and K. H and K represent the vertex. So the vertex is going to have to be where in relationship to the focus and the directrix? That's halfway between them, right? So what point would be halfway between the focus and the directrix? So the point, and it's x first, y second, so my vertex is going to be the point what? Because this is x dominant, so the x isn't changing. It's only the y that's going to change. So -3 stays the same, but the y, I have to drop down 1 space. So it should be -3, 3. And what was the whole purpose of this question? What are we trying to do? Find the equation of the parabola. So in my equation, I need x and y stay as variables, and I need to fill in h, p, and k. So I have P is 1. What's H and what's K? They come from the vertex. So this is H and this is K. So my equation would be x minus a negative 3, which would become x plus 3 squared equals 4 times 1 y minus 3. So this is the equation of our x-dominant parabola, which we can verify is supposed to open upward. Does that give me a concave up parabola with a positive 4 in front? Yeah. So that's our equation. All right, was there another one that you missed on 1 through 6 that we can go through?
5.
Yeah. 5? Okay. All right, so let's try 5. All right, so number 5, what are we given? We're given a focus is negative 3, negative 2, and the directrix is x equals 1. Yeah, so is this x dominant or y dominant? How do you know? So it's y dominant because it's making the x do all the work. So this is y dominant, so which standard form am I going to use? Y minus k squared 4p, nope, x minus h. Okay, so in order to find this equation, what 3 values do I need to know? H, K, and P. H is the x-coordinate of the vertex, K is the y-coordinate of the vertex, P is the distance from where to where? Yeah, so from the vertex to the focus, or from the vertex to the directrix, or if I have just the focus and the directrix, it is, P is what?
Is the distance between them divided by 2.
Yeah, so it's the distance between these two divided by 2. Do you really need to draw a picture? What's the distance between the focus of negative 3, negative 2, and a directrix of 1? So it's a distance of 4 away, right? So, because it would be 1 minus a negative 3, which would be 4. And if I cut that in half, I have a value of P equals 2. Right? Or you could sketch it and help that, see, have that visual to help. So this is negative 3, negative 2. It's y dominant, so that means it's either going to open to the left or the right. So if this is my focus and my directrix is at x equals 1, can you see that this has a length of 4 spaces between the directrix and the focus? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces away, or 1 minus a negative 3. Okay, and then so we know that P, 2P, so from directrix, from focus to the directrix is a length of 4. So P equals 2. That's just talking about a length, right? So if I want to talk about direction, if this is my focus, where does the focus always have to be? In the bowl, right? So would this parabola be facing to the left or to the right? To the left. And where would my vertex have to be? It has to be halfway between the two, right? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, so my vertex should be here. And since I'm opening this way, this refers to the distance, but to also indicate direction, what would I be plugging in for P? It's a negative 2. So when I plug this in, I have y minus, what's the y coordinate for my vertex? So remember the y coordinate's up and down, so that's -2 equals 4 times p, which is a -8, x minus, what's my h coordinate going to be for my vertex? -1. So x minus a -1. So if I simplify, this is y plus 2 squared equals -8 x plus 1. Yes.
Why do we use -2 instead of just -2?
Right here.
Yeah.
So the question is, why do I use a -2 instead of just this regular 2? So when I'm finding my value of p this way, I'm looking at that positive, just the length between the two. And lengths are always going to be positive. But when we are using p for our equation, p also indicates the direction.
Oh, because it's going.
Yeah, so it's the negative comes from us looking at this and saying, well, I need this direction to point to the left, right? Correct, not right. But it's pointing to the left. And so to indicate direction, I'm going to say that this is a negative. Yes?
So the directions always go from the directrix to the vertex? The direction when you're looking to see if it's negative or positive?
So you're saying like directrix and then vertex, so it's always.
Yeah, so if your directrix is always outside of the parabola.
Right?
So I guess you could look at it that way, that like if your parabola goes like this, if you're saying from directrix
Right.
to vertex, I had to move in the
So-
negative direction, versus if it were like this, which direction did I have to move?
Right,
Positive.
So Q would be positive?
Yeah,
Okay.
versus up
Right.
and down. Yeah, you could look at it like that. Okay, should we do another one? Yep, I think we're gonna do all of them. It's okay. Number 2. And this is actually, like what we're doing right now is what the next assignment focuses on, is the finding the equation using the focus and the directrix. So I don't mind going over these. So number 2, our focus is 0, -3. And the vertex is 0, 0. So when we're finding the equation of a parabola, what's the first thing we ask ourselves? Is it x dominant or y dominant? So with this, yeah, we say, well, who's doing the work? Who had to make changes here? The x's or the y's? So the y's are the ones that had to make some changes, and the x's are dominant. They're bossing them around, making them do all the work. So we'd say this is x dominant. So it's x minus h squared equals 4p y minus k. Are you guys with me okay on that?
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot easier when we have the vertex and either the focus or the directrix, because this always, the vertex gives us what? H and k. So I have h and I have k. So x minus 0 squared equals 4 times p y minus 0. So that would simplify to this. X squared equals 4py. So what's the only unknown that we have left to figure out? We need to know what the value of p is. So you can decide already, is p going to be positive or negative? 0, 0, and 0, -3. The focus is where? Inside the bowl. So to have a parabola that's x dominant that's pointing down, so concave down, what would the value of p have to be? It would have to be a negative, right? So you can look at the picture and say, well, how far away is the focus from the directrix. How many spaces is that? 1, 2, 3. And which direction does this open? Down. So this is going to, what's the value of P? So P is -3. Or if you don't want to draw a picture, you can think about it, right? So to go from the vertex to the focus, vertex to focus, we're changing the y, so it's going to be k plus p. I went from 0 to what? -3. So that equals -3. And what's k? So you can find that by making that little equation. It just depends on whether you want to draw a picture or if you want to just kind of make the equation and work through it. Okay? So which one have we not done? 1 and 3. Okay. Should we just do them? Okay. Number 1, we have our focus at 4, 0, and our vertex at 0, 0. What's the first question we ask ourselves? X or Y dominant? Who's doing all the changing? Who's doing the work? The X's. So who's bossing around to make them work? The Y's. So is this X dominant or Y dominant?
Y dominant.
Y dominant. So I have Y minus K squared equals 4P X minus H. If we have our vertex, what do we always know? H and K. Good. So this would be Y minus K is 0. X minus H is 0. Remember to do those in the, like when they're 0, 0, it doesn't really, if you mess up, it's not going to really do anything. But always make sure that whatever you put with the Y comes from the Y coordinate of the vertex. Whatever you put with the X comes with the X coordinate, comes from the X coordinate of the vertex. So what do we need to figure out? We need to figure out P. So if I'm going from vertex to focus, and it's the H that's changing, I have H plus P equals 4. And what do we know H is? 0. So what is P? 4. And if you want to check to make sure your signs are right, 0, 0, and 4, 0. And we'll go this direction because the focus is always inside the bowl. So would P be positive or negative? It's positive. So this is y squared equals 4 times 4, which is 16x. Okay. All right. So let's have you guys try number 3 on your own. And if you already did it, practice it again. So just on a separate piece of paper, give that a try.